The Emperor has foreseen a new threat rising against him. The Podwans Podcast.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning yet again into the Podwans Podcast. We're here to talk about, believe it or not, the finale of Skeleton Crew. It's over. We finished it. It's done. I had a good time with it. I don't know how everyone else is feeling. I feel like most people had a good time with it. It feels like the grifters weren't super upset for once, which is wild, but it's done. I think we have a lot to talk about, not only with the finale, but the whole show itself. And I am joined here today with my regular co-hosts, Luke at Jedi Master Eggs. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. We just did a TikTok live, just shooting the stuff about
shit. We don't hold back on our
monetization on YouTube's very upset with me right now. But yeah, we were talking and talking about stuff, what we're going to do after TikTok. We're probably going to be trying to be a little bit more active in Discord, the Podwans Podcast Discord. Yes, CJ, we were just on TikTok Live. I think you were there, if I remember.
No, I don't think they were.
No, CJ wasn't there. CJ doesn't do anything. But yeah, talking about hanging out in Discord. So in the links below the podcast, you'll see the links for the Discord if you'd like to join. It is a public server. You're free to join. And yeah, we talked about doing something like maybe once a month where a lot of the Star Wars TikTok community kind of gets together for just casual group discussion, just catch up and all that stuff. So I'm excited about that. But Harith, how are you doing?
You know, it's going. The week's going. We got the amazing finale of Skeleton Crew to talk about.
Yeah. It was definitely a finale. That show ended. I think that we'll definitely get into it, but I'm thinking there is a season 2 potential there.
I think so too. I think there's a lot of interesting things that they can go into, and I'll talk about more of it.
Yeah, for sure. But that being said, we are joined with a returning guest from, when was the last time this person was on there? We've got Pat at St. Pat. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing well.
I'm sick. So
sick.
We're hitting 1,000, batting 1,000 today. No COVID though.
Hey,
that's good. That's a start. Is not to be insensitive. Is COVID really a worry anymore? Like you get COVID and it's just kind of
you're being really insensitive right now, Chase.
It's just like annoying now, right?
Yeah, it's just like the flu.
Most everyone's vaccinated, right? Like,
except the whole southern region.
My parents live in the south. They got vaccinated.
Okay, Chase's parents are the anomaly.
I don't know that my aunt and uncle live in the south. They got vaccinated. I have
Chase's family are the anomaly.
have friends back in Atlanta. They all got
vaccinated. Anybody that knows Chase.
They all got vaccinated before I did, which is the crazy thing. But no, Pat, thanks for joining us.
of course.
Riddle me this. How'd you like Skeleton Crew finale? How'd you like it?
I loved it. You know, I have my points that were like beats, but there weren't many. That kind of like what's going on here. But I'm not disappointed at all for something that I had no idea what it was going to be. I just really loved the story and everything that the whole crew put work onto it.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I was I was what I said at the very beginning of this, like the week before it came out. I was like, I hope to be pleasantly surprised. I was pleasantly surprised.
No, yeah, definitely. Me and Chase were kind of on the same board, on the same wavelength of like, we're going to be cautiously optimistic about this show.
And I was the one that was like, this is going to be a sleeper hit, guys. And everyone's like, no, I don't.
I don't think we necessarily said, no, I don't. We were like, oh, it could be. For me, it's a top 5 Star Wars show.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For me, it's top 3 live action.
Well, for me, it goes Kenobi, obviously. Kenobi, Andor, and then I would put Skeleton Crew at 3. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
I'd put Skeleton Crew at 3. No, wait, hold on. No, I wouldn't. I would put Ahsoka at 3, Skeleton Crew at 4, and then Mando at 5.
I would put Andor at number 1.
Andor is my number 1 too. I think
Agreed, Andor.
That's where it ends.
Skeleton Crew would be 2.
All right,
Skeleton
Chase.
Crew at
11,
2.
11.
Okay.
Skeleton
Okay.
Crew. Yeah.
And I don't hate that because it's
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
I wonder if it's so good because nobody's complaining about it trying to ruin it. I think that might be also another thing that also adds to it. It's like genuinely everyone really liked it.
Mhm.
So it's like I look at an article, right, and it said, "Oh, what did Skeleton Crew do that the Acolyte didn't? Like, what were the things?" And I'm like, you can't really compare the two. Like, it's not fair to compare the two
I
because
think you can compare them. I think you can compare them as Star Wars television shows. Like they're very different thematically. They have different like stories and lessons they're trying to tell. But what I think Skeleton Crew did that Acolyte did not, and this is not me trying to hate on the Acolyte. I genuinely enjoyed the Acolyte. It's not my favorite Star Wars show, but I really liked it. They filled their episodes with more engaging content overall. Like I think the pacing, I would argue that I think the story of Skeleton Crew is fine. Like it's kids go on a pirate adventure. That's the story of Skeleton Crew. And I think it shows like you don't need super deep, like complex stories and themes to have a good time. And I think that's what Skeleton Crew really, really nailed on the head was they wanted to have fun with this. Yes, there's themes there. There's lots of stuff to talk about. There's lots of connecting threads into Star Wars. There's lots you can dive deep on, but it's not trying to hit you over the head with that. With its themes, and I think it's the primary goal of Skeleton Crew is like to tell a fun and engaging story and take you along the ride. Take like the viewers along the ride.
And it does it really, really well.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to a lot of the pacing of the episodes because like there are very short episodes in Skeleton Crew, and I think what
feels short.
Yeah, exactly. They don't feel short, and the end of each episode makes you want to come back next week to see where it's going.
And you feel like that little story that's been told in the episode just feels like it's been completed.
Yeah.
Not that it's something that's lingering and you're missing something.
It's not like it's a continuation. It's a continuation, but it also doesn't. It feels like it's a standalone thing.
Yeah.
As well. My thing is, especially with this finale, I love the fact there were no cameos.
Yes.
I love the fact that they just said, hey, you're not getting any cameos. And it actually enhanced it, in my opinion.
I'm glad they didn't. I wouldn't have been upset if they did. Like we were talking last week, I had brought up that maybe this is where Cal Kestis shows up because my thing was is that Wim has had his like he always viewed the Jedi as like the ultimate good in the galaxy, and he's had that shaken by Jod. And it's like, how are they going to restore his feeling about the Jedi with like no one there? I was like, is this the opportunity where someone like Cal comes in, or maybe Harrison Dula comes in, tells him about Kanan, something along those lines where someone has the discussion with him about what the Jedi used to be, etc. So like, but it didn't happen, and I also feel like it didn't need to. I feel like where they left off with Wim and the gang works great because you kind of get this sense of yearning from all of the kids and as well as the adults, and nothing's going to be the same on Manhattan. The barrier's gone.
Which, by the way, Nick brought up a good point that he had the theory that the barrier was part of the wall, like the barrier wall that the
storm wall
use, the storm wall for the High Republic, which I thought was interesting. It works kind of similarly. in a way. So that was interesting. I also find it very, very interesting that the executor or whatever
The supervisor.
the supervisor had gotten the message of Order 66. So our whole thing of, oh, is this old Republic or is this just the Republic? Well, we got our answer.
Well,
It's Republic. Now it brings up a debate. Do they know about the Empire? Which message was it?
It also brings up the question of like, I assume like the supervisor had all this information and just didn't tell anybody. I assume he just held on to that shit and then just
That's what I
kept everyone
gathered. Yeah.
secluded. Or like maybe select people knew, like because
Well,
yeah.
Wim's dad talked like, oh, I'm a tier 7 like Danos, maybe like tier 8, tier 9 people knew, but like
Well-
he held that information only to like high members.
I think the people, because they were not aware that the Empire was a thing. Like,
The
I
kids,
really
well,
believe
okay,
that.
the kids were not.
No, I don't think
We
the
don't
adults
know.
were either.
Yeah.
We don't know because we had Wim's dad say on that broadcast from last week where he says like you weren't supposed to find out until you were older. So it leads us to believe that the adults knew something, and Fern's mom was not shocked when she saw the supervisor. I think she understood and knew what the supervisor was. And I love the look of the supervisor, just a big giant cone robot.
Yeah.
It reminded
I
me
joked,
of Dave.
Atlantis, me and Atlantis were sitting there watching it, and I joked and I said, "What if it's just a B1 battle droid, just sitting there? That's the supervisor."
They had their B1 joke
Yeah.
earlier in the season, so I think that's a one trick pony. But yeah, like I think there was so many moments of this episode in particular that I really liked. I really liked the. It might have been myself, or maybe it was Nick saying that like something's going to happen on Atten where the power goes out and they're gonna only be able to use the bikes, and that happened.
Oh yeah, you guys did call that.
Any chance to use speeder bikes, they gotta use speeder bikes.
Yeah, it was really cool. That chase scene felt really fun. It was funny that like I was like man, these pirates have really bad aim. But it's the same thing like with the stormtroopers. Like, yeah, the pirates aren't going to shoot down the kids on the bikes. We will get to that.
I was gonna say I do love Mick Giacchino's score in this episode was like he was in his bag this episode. Like especially with like that chase sequence with the kids of like them running away from the pirates, like the way the score just got like more and more hopeful as they kept getting closer.
Yeah. The I think the moments inside of the supervisor's tower with Jod were really good, and kind of how he wasn't afraid to unravel who he was to the parents.
Wim's
I
dad.
loved what I really appreciated was we learned that Jod went through Order 66. And that's what led him down the life that he went down. But they didn't have to do a flashback. They didn't have to go into detail. We didn't have to see the clones. We didn't have to see Darth Vader. Like nothing. Like
I love how
it's
they
just,
get it vague.
it's like, this is what happened to me. Like a Jedi found me, took me in, and I watched that Jedi get mowed down by the Republic, and I never looked back. And I was like, perfect.
But he never really said anything about like the clones.
He said
The
something
way-
around the line of like wasn't it like he found me like in the gutter and then I watched her
they-
get
they-
mowed down in front of me.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
And then they killed her or him. I'm doing them. And so the way it was worded and the way he phrased it and it was playing thing, it felt like it was the Sith, the Jedi hunters.
It felt
Oh,
yeah.
the Inquisitors?
Yeah, the
I also-
Inquisitors. that was post. It was post Order 66.
Agreed. I got
Um,
that vibe too. That it was like he got found after the order fell, and he was like just a street rat that.
I
Yeah,
think
exactly
because
that.
I think what they were trying to imply with the supervisor saying, you know, the Jedi, the last report from the Republic was that the Jedi are traitors. So which one are you lying about? And the fact that that was said, and then he brought up what happened. I think they were just trying to imply that it was Order 66 that happened to him. Like, I don't think they were trying to jump through too many hoops to figure it out. It's like, and it was like, yeah, you kind of put two and two together. You know, it was Order 66 without saying, I went through Order 66. I was there in the 501st Battalion.
Well, it's like it doesn't make much sense for him to explain that because like we said, how much do the citizens really know?
Right. Also,
Yeah.
you got to remember the context of the scene was him talking to Wim, basically being like, "I'm just like you," essentially, with just less hope as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says the end was kind of cheesy. Why did he drop his blaster? Because the child in front of him was holding a lightsaber.
I mean, it wasn't just Wim with the lightsaber. The other two adults were there as well.
The adults were there. He knew that as soon as the barrier came down, that he was done. But also the production crew, like I've talked to a couple people who worked on the show, and the show has always been referred to as Goonies in space. And when I saw that, that reminded me of the end of the Goonies, is when they're on the pirate ship. And there's no good reason for the Fratelli family to surrender, but they do. And I felt that was more of an homage to the Goonies, which was the biggest inspiration for this show than anything. Was the kids came over the adults.
Again, we're taking Star Wars way too literally.
Well, no, it's like it is goofy. Like, I mean,
Goofy,
but
like,
there's a point to that.
Like,
but
are
yeah,
we just gonna forget that Star Wars has always been kind of goofy in that way?
yeah,
Oh,
it
yeah.
has.
Like, why are
Yeah.
why are we nitpicking
Also,
on that when
I will
we
also
see a stormtrooper hit its head in A New Hope?
It also makes sense for Jod because when KB crashes and burn, he goes, "I didn't want any of this to happen this way."
Yep,
Like,
and
he
the
didn't
way
want to hurt anybody.
the way he looks out when he sees the pirate ship in flames coming down, like that was a look of like relief, and he felt like he was finally free.
Yeah.
So
Jod- Sorry.
go
Go
ahead.
No, Jod throughout this whole thing, even when we first see him as Silvo in the opening, he always feels like he can't commit to that final. He can't go all the way as Brutus. He can't commit to that final step, and maybe just because of he has that Jedi background, and it's just that little pinprick, as he said, that's still there.
I think there's something in the back of his head. I think he had throughout the season, he had multiple times to just ditch those kids. He had so many opportunities, but he didn't. And I feel like when he's being bathed in the light, watching the barrier come down and watching the pirate ship fall, like it was like the look he gives is really impactful. Where it was like, maybe there's hope for Jod. I want to see where Jod's story goes from here. Like, it seems like he doesn't actually want to be a pirate anymore.
I think I think his backstory needs to be told in a book.
I could see that. That could be
It would
fun.
be
I think that could be interesting. I think it could give itself a little bit of time of growth to kind of get to know Jod as a person, and then we can connect with him through Skeleton Crew, obviously. But again, like I really, 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 I really enjoyed this show so much. Like, it was just a breath of fresh air after obviously the Acolyte, all that stuff happening, and it kind of was like like Harith was said, it was like a sleeper. It's truly a sleeper. Like, nobody really thought that it was going to be all that great, and then here it comes, and it did really, really well. Like, honestly, like, if people are like, "Oh, well, it didn't do very well," like, I don't think. Here's the thing: it doesn't matter if it's doing viewership. It does to the big companies, but like for fans, I think they just enjoy the story for what it is. And I mean,
I also like I love the mindset. I've said this since day one, and even after the finale, like what I love is season 2. Yes. Does it need a season 2? No, because they kind
some
of
shows
fulfilled their
don't
thing.
need multiple seasons, i.e., Obi-Wan Kenobi. Oh, by the way, can we just real quick talking about that?
The
Did
Ewan
everybody
humor.
see? Yes. If what ends up happening is what I predicted, I am a god. I am Mortis.
You literally called it on the Ahsoka finale, which is the funniest thing.
I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take that as a W right now. If that does actually happen, I will lose my shit. I'll be like, oh my god, I was right. It makes the most sense, of course, because Dave has his fingers on absolutely everything. But anyway, I think that and this is why I don't necessarily like when fans are like, "Oh, this show is better than this show." And I am a big proponent of not liking Book of Boba Fett, but there are things that I do genuinely enjoy about that show. I more than I more or less do it just to make Char mad. Just to rough
So
him up.
I like Book of Boba Fett because I felt like it was the most fun of the Star Wars shows, and I do think that Skeleton Crew was more fun than Book of Boba Fett was. Thank you,
Char,
Charlie.
I just gave Book of Boba Fett a compliment.
It's I had a lot of fun
Yeah,
with it, and I had more fun with Skeleton Crew than I had with Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah,
like, this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we need more shows like Skeleton Crew in Star Wars. I think that Star Wars has gotten a little too serious.
I think you can have both. I think I don't think it's a one or the other. I think you can have your Andors, you can have your Skeleton Crews, you can have your Young Jedi Adventure. Like,
I also love how they put Andor right after Skeleton Crew because it's like what you're saying. Like I love tonal variety in Star Wars. Like we get the most fun Star Wars show, and then we get the most politically dark Star Wars show.
It's different. It's very very different, and I think that's what Star Wars needs to do. I think it doesn't need to be all one genre. I think what they tried to do with Book of Boba Fett as a Western, what they tried to do with Acolyte as like a murder mystery in a different era, like I'm okay with those. But this made me feel like I was back watching the original trilogy for the first time. Like that's how I felt. Well, actually, scratch that. It's like I was watching the prequel trilogy for the first time. Honesty.
Yeah, I do enjoy the kind of like what we were talking about earlier is the thing that I really enjoyed about this and kind of like to like what someone was saying in the chat earlier is like, you know, this compared to Acolyte, and like I think everyone here enjoyed the Acolyte, you know, to varying degrees. Like some are gonna like it more than others. That's totally fine. Some people are gonna hate it, some people are gonna love it. That's fine. I think what the Acolyte did is they ended every episode with another question. Like the mystery kept getting more mysterious, and there was no point in which the mystery, like I remember distinctly watching the end of episode 7, and I was like, how the fuck are they gonna finish this? Like there was so many questions, and with Skeleton Crew, there was a mystery there. There was the mystery of AT-ATN, and I think what was so interesting about that is they kept it to just that question, and they drip fed you part of the answers over time, and the end of each episode was just the question was, where does this go next? Like what's gonna happen next? Like I think it was episode 4 or 5, you know, right before they get to Ad Akron, and then it's like, oh, we're like halfway through the show and they're home already. How is this gonna go? And then you realize they're not home.
Yeah.
And that episode, you know, it showed a different side of what could happen to these societies and these gems of the old Republic. And it added more to the mystery of AT-ATN, which was the main mystery of the show, but they never made that the focus of the show. And I think that's one of the big successes of this over something like The Acolyte, which focused so much on mystery, so much on questions, and so much on didn't focus on the unraveling of everything.
No, yeah. And I think it's interesting how this is going to play out moving forward, because let's think about this in an in-universe context, right?
Mhm.
The New Republic has a shitload of credits now.
Yep.
Like they could look at the banking clan if it's still around and be like, ha 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 ha, we have all the money. Like, my question is, when did Atten become secluded? Like, when did it come secluded? Like, what? Why?
Before the fall of before the rise of the Empire is like at least that.
The context I got. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead.
The context I got from it that since the High Republic, the day-to-day bureaucracy of how it worked is that it was a mint, and that shield has always been up, and there were certain select peoples in the Republic government, these emissaries, that were to go get the mints. Now, when somewhere, my thing is somewhere along the corruption of the Republic, that we get to into Chancellor Valorum's and Palpatine's era, that there's a breakdown somewhere in that process, because either that or Palpatine purposely stopped using it to create the credit crisis for the Empire.
Yeah, because I mean, before at Atten, we were all led to believe that the banking clan was the one that was funding everything. And if they would have known, if they would have known Atten had existed, like, the Republic could have funded itself.
They wouldn't have needed the Clone Wars.
Exactly. So maybe we'll get like a backstory of like why it was forgotten for so long. Like, it makes sense, Pat.
Yeah,
because if they have all that money, like, this is how Palpatine funded a second Death Star.
I actually have a theory about how this is going to play out with the New Republic and all that, with like the current timeline.
Oh, you think Thrawn's going to take it?
Mm-hmm. Because you also need to explain how the First Order
needs the money.
Yeah. And we also need to explain why in Bloodlines they kind of imply that the New Republic is kind of underfunded, and like how like they're kind of starting to like go through like a financial crisis. You kind of need to get to that point. So I wouldn't be surprised if what happens is the New Republic only takes a portion of it. They take Jod away, and then the opening of not Mando and Grogu, Filoni's film, is them breaking out Jod. Jod takes the remnants back to Atten, and they raid and just take everything and bounce out of there.
I would say I don't think you're going to see these characters again outside of another direct Skeleton Crew.
I agree.
Piece of media. I think, and I think that this is one of those things of, if you look at this like from a media perspective, like you look at the back-to-back shows, you look at The Acolyte and you look at Skeleton Crew. The Acolyte and Skeleton Crew are both like standalone stories. Like, they do not rely on any other characters that you've ever met before. And one did not go well for Disney. Like, we discussed it at length when it was airing. It just didn't go well for Disney. Despite how anyone may feel about that show, it really was a miss for them, unfortunately. Whereas Skeleton Crew was critically a hit, but financially not so much. It's everyone's, that's doing the reporting is saying it's just not doing the numbers that they had expected and stuff like that. So I think that Lucasfilm and Disney have something on their hands where it's just like, how much do we invest in these original stories when they clearly don't do as well as Kenobi or Andor or like The Mandalorian is an original story, but I've always said The Mandalorian is Silver Boba Fett. And so
Silver Boba Fett, in my opinion.
But it's just one of those things that I think that they're going to become apprehensive of original stories moving forward because it doesn't pay. It's one of those things. It's like the fans say they want it, and then when they get it, it's not what they want.
There seems to be a pattern with Disney and original stories, because we got Andor original story, right? Coming in, and then we got the tie-in with the Solo prequel, and that didn't do so well. But Andor was an original story that I loved, and the TV show is going great for Andor, and that's I've seen like an original character continuing, but we see none of anything happening with any of the Solo original characters.
Well,
And
think about that, Pat. I mean, Lando. What the fuck's going on with that?
Donald Glover is just an insanely busy human being.
Like,
Yeah.
Donald Glover, like it. In my opinion, I think they should bring Alden Ehrenreich back, and they should have him do like another series, do a series of Solo. Like, give us season 2, but give it to us in episodic. Give it to us in a season. Instead of make Solo 2 happen, make season 2 of Solo. Just make it a series. I think that the Wild Adventures of Han Solo and Chewbacca.
Yeah.
So
I think
that would be kind of fun.
I think you're right. I think it would be fun. I think I think the reality is they're in a really difficult thing, and this is something that like Harith and I were talking with people. I think it was Chaco and I think Chris, Star Wars lawyer. Hi, Chris. By the way, thanks for popping in the chat. The thing that I think we all have to remember is if we knew what was best for Disney, we would be working for Disney.
Yeah.
Like if we actually had the financial forecasting and the background numbers and the marketing behind everything, like we're just 4 people with microphones and webcams. Like you never want to lose track of that, but it's fun to theory craft. But I look at Disney and I was like, I don't envy the position they're in because you have what you just said. Oh, wouldn't it be so great if it was Han Solo and Chewbacca? People love that. Han Solo and Chewbacca are about to be 50 years old. Like the reality is the era of Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, and the Stormtroopers and the Rebels versus the Empire is phasing out, and the prequel era is kind of the new norm for Star Wars. It's the clones, it's Anakin, it's Obi-Wan, it's young Obi-Wan, not Alec Guinness, it's Ewan McGregor. And I think it's when you look at stuff like Mandalorian and Ahsoka and Tales of the Jedi and Clone Wars Season 7, and you look at how successful all of that has been for Lucasfilm. And it's one of those things, like any media company knows that you're going to have to dig through the dirt on social media. Like there's going to, no matter what you make, no matter how good it is, there's going to be someone saying it's the worst thing ever. And you can't, be beholden to people who are just going to say it's the worst thing ever. So Kenobi was a raving success for Disney. It really was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it still is. Still one of the behind Andor. It's still one of the best show like viewership wise. It's up there. It's still behind Andor. It's still one of the best shows.
Yeah. And so if you're Disney and you're looking at, you got to look at, I would say you have to look at all the numbers. You got to look at not only like, well, how many people bought tickets to Solo? How many people bought the Blu-ray for Solo? How many people streamed Solo on Disney Plus? How many people are streaming the original trilogy right now? Versus
that's the problem, Chase. They're gonna look at the viewership, and what viewership says is what the money is going to say.
Exactly. That's how business works.
Yeah, that's how it works. It doesn't matter whether we pitch ideas.
Yeah, like
the fact that people were like, yeah, more studios should listen to us. Should they?
That's why when, as much as I would love to see Donald Glover come back for Lando, it's like I would have to look at it like, okay, you want the actor who played in the worst performing Star Wars movie of all time, that is a character from an aging, less and less relevant by the day trilogy, to get his own show or own movie, versus going back to the well with Anakin or Ahsoka, or now their new cash cow, Mandalorian and Grogu. Like, I know people aren't super thrilled about Mandalorian and Grogu, but it's like the most financially sound thing. Like, Harith, you sent me the link to the Switch 2, and I'm like, this is so out of pocket for Nintendo, but it makes the most sense.
Yeah.
And it's like, at the end of the day, this is from day one, from 1977 till today, this has been about making money. And I think that this is a great point. Like, people who own the original trilogy, a lot of them, the amount of rewatches are all on physical media versus some type of streaming or digital. And it's one of those things, like, if you think about, I'll just say, like, who has more plays on Spotify, Britney Spears or Taylor Swift? Like, Britney Spears was a cultural phenomenon in the 90s and 2000s, but that was the age of physical media. Like, she was before iPods. And I think it's one of those things that, like, Disney's in a really tough spot. You know, what do they go with? People are saying left and right, we want original stories. We want original stories. Stop going back to the prequels. Stop going back to the originals. We gave you 2 original stories. You hated one and didn't show up for the other.
The more that you go on this rant, the more that makes me think this is what I think they're going to do. I think Disney Plus is going to be our safe bet. This is going to be our Andors. This is going to be our Ahsokas. This is going to be our Mandos and all these, like, safe shows. The movies is where we're going to kind of take risks every once in a while. So you'll get your Mandos and Grogu's, like you'll get your safe bets. We will take financial risks there because we have a better chance of turning profit there. And
I think it would be the exact opposite.
I think so too.
I think that if you're looking at a theatrical release where you have to pay movie theaters, you have to you have to rent that time from movie theaters. Like, but that's a way bigger risk.
But I was thinking more like Dawn of Your Jedi, and you're that kind of stuff. You're the New Jedi Order, like you're
I'm telling you right now that that's still one of my most anticipated, and that might never see the light of day. I think that is the most interesting fucking story ever.
I think
Dawn of the Jedi. Oh my god,
they could do so much with that, and I think if they ever get anywhere near seeing any evidence of it, it's one thing that I would be the most scared of. Just because I don't know what the fandom would do if we got an origin story, canonized, and it's
Dawn of the Jedi doesn't have the fanatic, rabid fandom that the Old Republic does, so I think it's kind of a safe bet. But I just want to address this comment of, like, it's not fair to say it was making money since the prequels. They sent IOU cards for the action figures that were sold alongside the original trilogy. They were selling toys before the movie existed. It has always been about making money. One of the pitches of Star Wars that George Lucas brought to 20th Century Fox was you will sell merchandise at the end of this.
And that's why he took the merchandising rights.
You don't need George.
You don't, because he didn't write the original. Actually. He didn't write the original stories.
I'm becoming more and more of a grumpy old fucking bitch here. I'm sorry, but George Lucas has not been a part of Star Wars for so long.
Also,
why does it matter if George is there or not?
Well, like,
who the fuck cares?
Timothy Levin wrote Into the Void, and like it very much strayed away from a lot of the stuff that George had laid out. Like, and this was way before Disney. So like the Dawn of the Jedi, story, like I know I'm in the minority, and I've been on this podcast multiple times saying that's like, I love Into the Void. I think it's a great story. I don't think it's the best written story, but I think it's a great story. I think it takes the lore of Star Wars in a really, really good place, and it opens up in the same way that Knights of the Old Republic 2 is. It really opens up the possibilities of what you could interpret the Force as, and it directly contradicts what George Lucas wanted. So like I want more experimentation. I want more shows to ask these questions. I want more Kreia-like characters. I want more Lannery and Dalian Brox. Like, I want these characters that question the status quo of what's going on. And I think that the Acolyte tried that, and I think they succeeded in some spots, and I think they failed in a lot of different other spots with what they tried to do. I think they left too many things open to interpretation instead of kind of sticking to their guns of like, this is how we want to tell the story, and they left too much up for interpretation.
I will say this about this comment. Tolkien and Lucas are similar in some ways, not a lot. George made a movie about a space wizard, and everybody hated him for making a prequel trilogy of that thing that he wanted to tell the story, and now everybody wants him to take it back, even though the people that want him to take it back hated it when he had it originally.
I would also say a majority of people today, and not to get way too far off the topic of Skeleton Crew, I would say most people's view of Lord of the Rings is not Tolkien's view. It's Peter Jackson's.
Peter Jackson.
Yep.
Tolkien was dead when those movies came out.
Tolkien was dead before this. Was he? I'm pretty sure he was dead before the publication of the Silmarillion.
Yeah, because it was his son.
Because it was Christopher Tolkien.
Yeah, it was Christopher Tolkien.
Yeah,
so like if we're going to get in the nitty gritty, like. I don't think it's fair for people to say one thing and then also, and I'm not meaning to attack,
right,
anyone. It's
just
frustrating
things
because
like
you see all these people grifting and be like, George, we should give it back to George, give it back to George. Who says that George wants it back?
And that's the thing. Filoni has stated many times. Lucasfilms keeps an open door for him. He can come back and tell any story he wants. He doesn't want to. I think he's moved past this.
He's moved past it. He's also involved, not in the writing, not in the production, but he's involved with just about everything that Disney has done. He is on set for just about every single Star Wars production, live action production. I should say live action.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was there for Force Awakens, he was there for Last Jedi, he was there for Rise of Skywalker, he was there for Mando, Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, Andor, Rogue One, all of it. He was there on set, and it's one of those things. Like, he's gonna have his opinions. He's gonna like the direction that this project went, and not that project, and that's okay.
And
it's okay
and you know what's
if
funny?
He doesn't like it.
And you know what's funny? His favorite post Disney era content is
Last Jedi and Kenobi.
Yeah, Obi-Wan fucking Kenobi. And I wonder why that is. It's because it's his fucking characters. Like, that's
it's one of those things. Like,
just leave George alone. Let him do his indie films and fuck around with his whole little art museum.
I think
the man be himself.
I think the thing, not just specifically for George, but this idea that a lot of people want to latch on to, like, the original creator, right? Because we have varying degrees of success of, like, mantles being passed. Like, if you look at Dune and you look at Frank Herbert's work, and it's considered a masterpiece of science fiction literature, all of the books he's wrote, and then when he passed away, Brian Herbert, his son, took over, and it did not work well for a lot of people. I know people who swear by the Brian Herbert books, but for a lot of people, it didn't work well for them. And it's one of those things, like, there's other instances where if you look at something like John Carpenter's The Thing, like, that was an iteration on something that became the gold standard, besides it being a story that had already been told and being reinterpreted and retold through a different lens. And that became the standard. It was because someone's fresh take ended up being better. And it's like, is it ever going to be better than what George did? Like, that's up to you, right?
Also,
Andor's my favorite thing we've gotten in Star Wars, probably ever. If I take off my nostalgia goggles for A New Hope, I have to say, like, Andor's probably my favorite thing, Rogue One included. Like, I really love them. Like, I like Rogue One more than I like the entire prequel trilogy. I like it more than Return of the Jedi, that one. And it's like, that's not George. And it's like, it's my favorite. It's like my second or third favorite movie. It flips back and forth between that and Empire. And it's like, yeah, I think what Tony Gilroy did was incredible.
I'm going to say, which shouldn't even be a hot take to begin with, we are 12 years into the like Disney owning Lucasfilm. And even since like the initial merger, I've said this and I agree with this. Can we stop holding the Star Wars franchise to what would George do? Because it doesn't really matter.
He'd bring back Jar Jar Binks. That's what he would do.
George had every opportunity to do his sequel trilogy, and he didn't do it.
Yeah.
We would have 20th Century Fox Plus new live action series Binks season 4. That's what we would have.
I will say this. I think they used a lot of his. I think they took a lot of the things that he was going to do for that 1313 show, and they put that into Mando.
I could see that.
Because that was more of like your bounty hunter type
1313 was supposed to exclusively take place on Coruscant.
Yeah, but I mean like the vibes. Like
Sure.
it's more bounty hunter.
Are you talking about Underworld or are you talking about 1313?
Underworld. Yeah, Underworld. Yeah, Underworld. The show, not the game. I get the game and the show.
Because the 1313 was very much about gangs on Coruscant.
But that's what he was going to do after the prequel trilogy. Was he was going to do a TV show, like in the underworld of Coruscant, and it was going to be more gritty. It was going to be like a mixture between Book of Boba Fett and Andor, like the style types.
Sure, and stuff like that can be cool. But like, there's the thing that I like to keep track of is we look at something like Skeleton Crew. That you know, since its title card was released, everyone was like, okay.
Interesting.
And I know that I've talked to people who like it's not for them. They just don't like it. And it's like, I didn't like Stranger Things. Like I've seen the Goonies, like this is not doing it for me. And that's totally fine. Like that, I get it. But it's like for, I think a vast majority of people that watch Skeleton Crew, they were like wildly surprised at how good it came out. And that's the thing that I like to look at. And as I'm going to bring it up every podcast episode. I play fucking Star Citizen. So I am always having to look towards the future. Like the present is a thing. We got a great update that's really buggy, but whatever. But I always like to think like, what is coming down the pipeline that we don't even know about? Like, what is
we're gonna have to have boots on the ground for Star Wars Celebration Tokyo.
Yeah, like what is the show? What is the movie that they're just not talking about? That they're, you know, it's not wild. I mean, I know it's less common now with social media, but like it's not uncommon for people to be like, yeah, this was a secret project. We didn't tell anyone about it. And like, it was a huge NDA from everyone involved. Not that I think this is the perfect example, but like,
I mean, it kind of was though. Cause I mean, Celebration Anaheim, they just popped and said, we're not filming the show. And we're like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. And I think that can happen. And if something comes out that's like the same quality as Skeleton Crew, like great, give us, I forget the TikTok creator's name, you know, give us Jinky Minus. What's the next thing we don't know about that, you know, they really feel strongly about? And it's like, cool. Because I think was it Tales of the Jedi where they kind of announced it and said it was like airing in like a month?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's like, I would not be surprised if there's another animated show or another like live action show or movie that they, not that to that level, but like, it's like, oh, we already wrapped this up. Like it's done.
Could we see, since the High Republic era is going to be ending this fall, could we be seeing a Tales of the High Republic? Would we be okay with seeing that?
No, I think that the High Republic was a financial disaster for Disney. And and I think it was a mishandled. And this is not to say anything negative about the High Republic. I think it was just something that they invested a lot of money into and got basically nothing back out of it. Like I think that was a huge money loss for them, and I think they would rather move on past it.
Define money loss though. Money loss in terms of TV shows, because book wise, they said it was their biggest financial success in terms since the new canon media, because the comic got like 5 reprints, which is super rare for comics.
Mhm.
The books were #1 sellers for months. So like they said like this was their biggest publishing success.
I think the fact that their first foray into bringing that to visual media with the Acolyte and as well as Young Jedi Adventures, it just did not perform. And it's like you can write as many big, great books as you want, and those books can sell well. Like the amount of money we're looking at when it comes to books is pennies, literal pennies.
I will say that I think with the Acolyte, and this is the problem with fandoms in general or people getting their hopes up, it was marketed as a Sith show, when in reality
It was marketed poorly. I agree.
It wasn't a Sith show.
No.
It was about 2 sisters who were Force sensitive, and then a dark side user, and the Jedi being bamboozled again. Like
it was a show that anyone who saw the trailer, saw the posters, saw any of the press, like if they went into Acolyte thinking that they would see a lightsaber fight in just about every episode, I wouldn't blame them for that. Like that's kind of what the vibe was going for. And then when the show comes out and it's a murder mystery for a little bit,
it technically is.
Yeah, I would say the Acolyte is
incorrect. That's incorrect.
It's the end of the era.
It's the end
of the High Republic. Yeah,
it's still in the High Republic. Like the parts of the
there's a vector in the show.
Yeah,
Dooku's birth is like the end.
Birth is the end of the High Republic. Technically, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because Dooku Jedi lost. Like the flashbacks take place in the High Republic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to actually you, Chris.
Yeah, I think that I think the marketing for that show just
I think
wasn't
marketing in general for Lucasfilm is awful.
I don't think it's awful. I think it's
misleading.
I don't think it's misleading. I think they have this has stayed true, and it's true with Skeleton Crew as well, is that every Disney Plus show has had a twist of some type to it. And I think the Acolyte was the same, that like Jod being this Jedi pirate that eventually turns on the kids was the twist. Like kind of what you thought it was going to be. Like we thought Jod was just going to be this Jedi that like helped these kids out while the kids were fleeing from pirates. It's like, no, Jod is the pirate. So I think that they are marketing shows to kind of marketing it one way where it's not 100% true, but it's still mostly true. And then the show will take a different direction. So they keep you engaged and wanting more, that like each show will be surprising in a way.
I think in terms of marketing, and this is just a Disney issue all around, but especially for Lucasfilm, I think they have a confidence issue. I think they go, this is Star Wars, it will sell well, and then they just put their hands up and just leave it.
I think they bank on the fact that it's Star Wars to sell a little too much. I think they do more than that. I think that there's also, like, keep in mind, we see a fraction of the marketing. Like, we are in tune on social media with TikTok and Instagram and YouTube, and so we see some of it. Most of us don't have cable. Most of us are not in larger cities. So, like, I can tell you in New York, like, there was tons of marketing. Yeah. Like they are posting posters. When we went to London, Jedi Survivor was on buses. Yep. Like they are pushing this stuff. And it's one of those things like, I don't think this is a Star Wars, Lucasfilm, or Disney issue. This is a media issue where the way we used to market stuff doesn't work anymore. Like the idea of something like, I'm just going to pick out the original X-Men movie from like the 2000s.
Yeah.
Like, you knew a lot of what was going to happen in that movie. Like, you knew Sabretooth was going to be in it. You knew that Toad was going to be in it. You knew that Cyclops and Wolverine were going to be in it. And now, because of social media, they are trying to get more people in. They are trying to get things around people. Like, they don't want you to know that Gambit is in Deadpool and Wolverine. You know, they don't want you to know that Chris Evans, spoiler alert, guys, Chris Evans comes back into Deadpool and Wolverine and he's the fucking Human Torch.
Also, am I in hell? Chase is talking about Marvel. What the fuck?
Yeah, right?
But no, like the way we market stuff now is so different. And it's one of those things that I think if you look at the phase 4 of Marvel, like, post Endgame, like, interest in Marvel just plummeted right after Endgame. And it's like they checked all the boxes with their marketing. Like they marketed, like, I was getting ads for Eternals, I was getting ads for Moon Knight and Agatha. I got tons of ads for Agatha, and it's like nothing sticking. And so they have to change it. And it's like if you look at something like Nosferatu or Furiosa had an amazing marketing campaign and it was a good movie. No one saw it. Like, that's not Disney. Like, that's just marketers being like,
I think
we did it. We did the marketing. We put the money in marketing. We had creative marketing and people didn't go see it.
I mean, look at, I don't necessarily agree with John's take with Disney interference. Do we just forget they just released the entire fucking plot of episode 3 in the first trailer? They literally gave away a lot of different things in that first trailer for Revenge.
They give you the entire movie in that trailer.
Oh,
yes.
I would also say it's a prequel, and it was the final prequel. We knew it was going to happen.
Spoiler: Anakin has to become Darth Vader.
If you were in 2005 going to the theater to see Revenge of the Sith, like, I wonder what happens to Anakin Skywalker in this movie. And like, fuck it, I got 6 movies to show you, bud.
You know what? I was 10. I didn't really realize that until...
It's okay.
I think after Attack of the Clones, my mom was like, yeah, you do realize that he's Darth Vader, right? And I was like, oh, okay. That makes sense. But anyway,
I think that Disney and all production studios could do a better job. I think this extends to video games as well. Like, I know that this is way out of left field. If you look at something like Concord, like,
oh god, yeah,
like, that was a game that, like, wasn't great, but it was fine, and it was just one of those things of, if you told anyone at, like, any type of business level of, like, yeah, here's a thing that is our take on this really popular thing, and we put a lot of work into it, put a lot of effort into it, like, lots of money, lots of development, it works really well, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you release it, and when you're looking at, like, its competitors, which would have at the time been Overwatch, Rainbow Six Siege, and Apex Legends, kind of. And it's like, wow, these games have hundreds of thousands of players playing them, and this game got 1,000. And it's just like, we did what we've always done, and it didn't work out. And we're seeing this more and more and more with basically everything. Oh my gosh. Lawbreakers was wild. This was because it was Lawmakers, Battleborn. Obviously we have Concord. There was an APB was another one where it was like, we are ticking all the boxes. This is what people are saying they want. This is everything. To bring it back to Star Wars, this is what happened with Star Wars Squadrons. Like, this is what people were saying they wanted. Star Wars Squadrons, people were complaining about live services. They were complaining about DLC. They were complaining about game shipping with only multiplayer, and all these games are too expensive. And they're like, wow, what if we didn't do any of that? No loot boxes like Battlefront had. We got rid of all of it. And this is the spiritual successor to X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, which you guys have been saying you wanted for 20 years now.
No one played it.
Oh, you abandoned it. Okay, that was fucking money down the drain. And it's like, it's just one of those things, like everyone's struggling with this right now. Like, it's so funny that Chaco brought up Lawbreakers, because that was supposed to be the next big thing, flopped like within a month. And it's just like, it's happening with shows like, what is that show? Severance. I don't know if you guys have seen this stuff for Severance. It is, the main issue is it's a Apple Plus or
I've heard about. Oh yeah, because
Apple TV show with the guy from Parks and Rec, and it's like this incredible concept. It's an amazing cast. The marketing has been insane. Like they were basically miming an episode inside of Grand Central Station like 2 days ago. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they were dressed up as the cast. They were doing.
It is a science fiction cerebral office show. Like the idea is that they work for a company that has top secret clearance levels, blah, blah, and they develop a technology where you walk into an elevator. You forget who you are. You still have your same skill set, but when you go into the office, you have no recollection of who you are. So you're not distracted by what's going on at home, your kids, your wife, your husband, your family, your friends. None of it's a distraction. You work an 8-hour day. You walk back out into the elevator. You forget you worked, and you're back to your regular person. And it's like this crazy concept of a show.
That is a crazy concept.
And it's like, and the only way, the thing is like the contract you sign is like, you cannot quit until your real world self consents to it. And like weird stuff starts happening in the office, and they're trying to convince their real world selves to quit the job. And they're like, I just walk into a fucking elevator and walk right back out. Like, I don't want to fucking quit this thing. And and part of it is it's on Apple TV or Apple Plus, whatever they call it. I have not seen it, but it sounds amazing, and it's an amazing cast. Everyone who has seen it,
check it out.
Yeah, everyone who has seen it says this is incredible, and the marketing they're doing is insane. But the thing is, no one wants to sign up for fucking Apple TV.
No. See, I could go on about Apple TV, but this is not the podcast to do that on.
Go for it.
No, I just. The way that they do the shows, and I don't see any, I only see the trailers for Apple TV. I hear I've never seen anything on social media about how the shows are doing. I hear no one talking about them. I don't know if shows are still going on, and it's just like this kind of intense, like dark room of media, and it's just weird. And I'm like, I'm not hearing what people are saying about it. I'm not going to spend my time with it if I'm not hearing anything about it.
This is the thing that I see so often, and this like not to be super. I've been fucking tangential this whole episode. I'm sorry, but like this feels like it's just one of those things, like kind of like Star Wars. Like, this is what you said you want. You wanted high quality. You wanted good shows. You wanted great acting, and it's just like, because it's not convenient, because you already have Hulu, you already have Netflix, you already have Disney Plus, you already have Max, and you're like, I don't fucking care about Apple TV. But it's apparently the Apple TV shows are like top tier.
I mean,
no one's watching them.
That's not really true. Ted Lasso
is the only show that I can.
Ted Lasso is a great Apple TV show. Shrink with Harrison Ford, and Jason Segel. No, not Jason Segel. Is it him? That one's pretty good. It's just I've had Apple TV Plus since it was like first introduced.
Yeah.
So I literally have every single streaming service. So
I've always joked, the Apple TV is the boomer streaming service. Like it's the like I'm retired, I have nothing better to do, but I'm gonna watch Apple TV.
I wish I was retired and I had nothing better to do.
Yeah, it's one of those things like because Chris is listing off all these like great shows that nobody is watching, and it's frustrating. And I can only imagine from a business standpoint, you don't want to put your programs on another channel. It's the same reason, like like American Idol does not want NBC showing American Idol, right? Mm-hmm. Like. And it's like it's no different, but it's like you can also, like, if you pay for cable, you can switch from Fox to NBC to ABC to Comedy Central to Nickelodeon to whatever, right? Whereas this, it's just like, yeah, you're locked into basically one channel, and it's frustrating that, like, even though these are like apparently some of the best streaming content out there, no one cares. It is all about convenience. It's all about people liking what they already have.
Well, on that note, Chase.
Yes, Lucas.
It's a good wrapping up point.
Yeah, I think so. I think the only thing left to talk about is TikTok has a very real possibility of going away on Sunday.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we're gonna continue on YouTube. For sure.
Yep.
Like that is happening. The Pod Ones is not going anywhere.
Nope.
We hope that everyone kind of sticks around with us and hangs out with us. Or we have the Discord link down below. So please join the Discord. Feel free to be active, especially in the 18 plus chat. That's kind of where most people are talking.
I'll make it easy for you guys, or anyone that's on the stream.
Yeah, if you could send it into the...
It's literally going to be in the chat in like 15 seconds.
Yeah, please join the Discord.
I'm tired. I'm sick. If you can't hear, Christopher, I'll do government names. Don't make me do it. I will do it.
But yeah, excuse me. Please join us on Discord, because should the TikTok ban go through on Sunday, that app goes dark for us Americans. And it's very unfortunate we're not here to talk about that.
Very funny, Chris.
And we're just doxing people now. So.
Porn.
I will.
But yeah, join us on Discord, and obviously subscribe. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon on YouTube so you can kind of keep up while we're doing this. We had talked about we do want it.
Are we going to create a red note? Which one of us is going to do it?
I'm going to say this. I am going to say this. There have been multiple and also mixed reports of Red Note banning trans and queer creators that are signing up for their platform. Yeah. So I don't fuck with that kind of stuff. So I won't be doing it. But I know a lot of your favorite TikTok creators are going to Red Note for the time being. But that being said, that's gonna.
I need a lawyer podcast.
Man, I don't know American Eagle has.
Are we just literally now that TikTok is banning, like, is Pod One's YouTube channel just going to become like the flavor of the week?
Why
like,
not?
I would love that.
Like,
just chat for an hour every week. We're friends, right?
Oh, I'm about to ban you, Hobbit. Wow, that's really mean. I'm not short. I don't have hairy feet.
You do have hairy feet.
All right. Well, anyway, Pat, where can the good people follow you on the social media?
Oh, well, if you're still doing Meta, I'm on Instagram at St. Pat _ of space, I believe. Of stars. There you go. Then I am on Blue Sky just as St. Pat. Then if you into TTRPGs and D&D and that fun stuff, I have a YouTube channel here called Roll the Fates, and we're doing some great things over there. I just recorded my 3rd episode for our Power Rangers campaign. I'm playing two Star Wars one shots right now. One of them includes Harith. So set in the Clone Wars. So if you need original stories, as we're talking about, go to Roll of the Fates, and you get to see us having a bunch of chaos and doing fun stuff.
Hell yeah.
Harris.
God, like the TikTok ban has really thrown my ramble for a loop. I guess you could find me at TikTok for the next 72 hours on Hair Productions. If you want to find me in Meta, I guess you can find me at Hair Productions on Instagram and Threads. You can also make Hair Productions on Blue Sky. And then I guess I have a Red Note. I don't know if I'm going to use it. It's going to probably just sit there forever.
I don't know if I'm going to. I just don't feel.
I'm not going to use it. It's just going to be a quiet
option.
rebellion to the American government, and that's going to literally just be it. And of
Well,
course, you can find me here at the Pod Ones Podcast forever.
Lucas.
you can follow me at Jedi Master Eggs on all social medias. Don't know if I have anything else besides that. Oh, well, the Pod Ones. You can follow us on all social medias except for TikTok. But I will say one thing about the TikTok ban. I think it's very unfortunate. I hope everybody else around the world gets to enjoy that great app. Without TikTok, this wouldn't exist. By the
100%.
way,
I wouldn't be talking to you guys if this didn't exist.
No,
No,
exactly.
I wouldn't know any of you guys if it weren't for TikTok.
I think it just goes to show you that we will give the Chinese any bit of our information if that means that we get to keep our community intact. So, for the time being, and like I said in the TikTok video of our farewell to TikTok or whatever, just because the app is going away doesn't mean that the community has to die or has to go away. So we'll make do for the time being. We'll figure out what the next app is, where we're all going. But oh geez, Chris.
Let's go back to Char. I love you.
All right, ego maniac. But yeah, I do appreciate you all. Chase, take us home.
You could find me at Redacted.
We can cover
I
you
do-
for that, Chase.
I do have a Blue Sky. I think if you just look up Forward Into the Black, you'll find me, but I think it's FWD Into the Black. 'Cause character limits, I guess. I was never a Twitter user, so I'm still like, what do I post here?
I have a Twitter. I just don't use it.
Yeah. So I have a YouTube channel, and I'm here with the Pod Ones. We will continue to chat about Star Wars, about all sorts of other stuff, and we'll probably get some more streams going on. But that being said, thanks to everyone in the chat for hanging out, talking, contributing to this conversation. I loved Skeleton Crew. I genuinely really enjoyed it. I know this kind of little finale took a different direction, but that's okay. That's just the nature of conversation. And I'm looking forward to more and more Star Wars coming out in the future. But that'll be it for this evening, and we will see you guys later.